Story 3. Prince's Riding. This long alley now supplies an excellent walking route, but it was originally designed to be purely ornamental. The riding supposedly was given its name in the 16th century when Prince Edward came to stay at Ashridge. However, the style of the alley is much later. Over time, more woodland was cleared, and the straight view we see today was opened up. Like much of our land, woodland has been cleared to make space for man and man's intentions. Although Prince's Riding and Monument Drive are now coherent, one long route, they were formed over centuries for different purposes, different reasons, different intentions. In the Victorian period, when the 8th Earl of Bridgewater died with no heirs, the Ashridge estate passed to the Brownlow part of the family, and upon the 3rd Earl of Brownlow's death, his will stipulated that the estate should be sold. Many such estates were sold after the First World War as great houses came into decline. The Ashridge estate was sold in sections, with the house being bought and then donated for training purposes to the Conservative Party. Other parts of the estate were sold, with one such section bought to create a golf course, which is still here today. A public campaign was then launched for the land to be kept together, and eventually the National Trust purchased the rest of the estate in the 1920s. Their ownership and stewardship of the land continues today. During the First World War, Ashridge had been used as a training ground, and in other parts of the estate you might see practice trenches dug in the forest. But it was after the sale of the estate in the 1920s that the house and the estate became separate places with different visions. However, they both served a purpose during the Second World War. Before war was even declared, Ashridge House had been offered as a hospital, originally designated for those injured in the Blitz in London. Ashridge House then served many other medical purposes, catering to wounded troops, German prisoners of war, pregnant women, polio patients, and others. Huts were built near to the house to provide more beds. 31 huts were built in total, each holding up to 40 patients. So Ashridge House was very busy during World War II. By the end of the war, over 20,000 patients had been seen at the house, and 3,000 babies had been born there. So through the death and destruction of war, there was still life and birth at Ashridge House. The estate land also had a purpose in the Second World War. Prince's Riding, where we stand now, is today walked by hundreds of feet, with Ashridge seeing visitors from near and far. What was simply once visually pleasing became practical during the war, when Monument Drive was built by Belgian troops. The woods were closed off from non-military personnel during the war period, as troops from America, Belgium, Poland, the Netherlands, and British troops too came to Ashridge to train and practice manoeuvres. Between the house and the land, Ashridge played host to those going to war and those needing help from it. As you go a little further along the route, you'll find Barrack Square, which was used as a parading ground for troops. This is the final story in this Amongst the Trees audio experience, but the walk still continues on. As you walk back, look at the trees. Look at the ground. What can you find? Look down as well as up and around to see if you can see any remains from Ashridge during the wartime. You might see bits of rubble or brick buried in the path. You might see some enclosure mounds. You might see some veteran trees. As you walk back, take time to explore, to listen to the trees, to look around you. Remember, you can always come back, and remember that through every season, through war and contested land, this forest has remained, has stood, and today is protected. amongst the trees, as I am amongst the trees, as I am amongst the trees, as I am amongst the trees. Keep me hidden, cocooned in your branches, as I uncover what's underneath you, what's under your branches, what's hidden in these, the stories of years ago, the stories in me, oh, floating on. I hear the whispers, the distant songs of people working the land, or being at war than one place. Inside the soil, here